Hello everyone and welcome to the new moon in Sidereal Libra guided intention setting practice for the new moon in Libra. Actually for tomorrow's new moon in Libra, we're a day ahead of schedule. Give me just one moment, if I may, to kind of make sure I have all the windows situated here. We're running a little bit late tonight and I apologize, not due to any tech issues, but because I sat down to get everything set up at my desk and had like a last minute blast of inspiration on some of the notes around the actual releasing part of the intention setting part of the practice at the very, very end. But welcome. I'm Phaedra. For those of you who might be new to the channel, new to the broadcast, new to Mystick, Physick, Astrology. So I'm the astrologer and artist of Mystick, Physick, Astrology, and I use Western Sidereal Astrology in my practice. And really what I like to do is help you reconnect with your soul purpose and remember why it is you came into this life to begin with. And so welcome. It's good to have you. Give me just 1 second to kind of double check everything. I've got my notes here in front of me. That's good. Looks like there's links and video descriptions that hit properly. That's good. It looks like we are live on Facebook and on YouTube. Those things are both good. And I'm going to bounce back and forth between the screens because I still haven't figured out the merged comments piece yet. But I'm going to bounce back and forth between the screens to kind of keep an eye on your comments with tonight's broadcast. Welcome. If you're joining me live, just throw a comment in the chat. Let me know you're here, where you're joining us from, which house maybe even Libra falls in your sidereal natal chart. And if you don't have your sidereal natal chart with you tonight, you're going to need it. So definitely hop on over to the link at mystickphysick.com/sidereal-tools to find out for free what your sidereal planetary placements are. We specifically are looking at your rising sign or ascendant with this practice. However, new moon intention settings and full moon releasing practices can also be done for your sun sign. And I would encourage you to do that because then you get, double your money out of every lunation, and especially during times right now where we're entering into eclipse season, the leading edge of eclipse season. Eclipse season can be a powerful time to do these practices for both your sun and your rising sign and to get extra oomph for your effort. And so we might talk about that a little bit more tonight as we talk about the astrology of this particular new moon in general. Which is what we'll talk about in the first part of the broadcast. In the second part of the broadcast, we'll kind of dive off into which house this is falling into for each of you according to your sidereal rising sign and what the themes of those houses are. So if you want to work with a particular theme or house theme according to your natal blueprint, you can do that. And then in part 3, what we'll do is we'll talk a little bit more in depth about the Libra archetype and Libra themes. And I have some new prompts to share with you tonight for the intention setting practice. And it's good to be back. I have another broadcast coming up on Monday. So please stick around. Hopefully we're going to hit the ground running. And now that we're through election season, I'm going to switch around and check my tabs here, make sure that we're in good shape, that everything is streaming properly, that we have video, that we have audio, that we have comments, that we have viewers, all of those things. Okay, and my notes. Here we go. Sorry, you get quarantine, Phaedra, today. I'm just been back from traveling near election time, and so I am isolating at home for a couple weeks just to make sure that I'm not bearing any contagion. And I realize it's been officially 12 months, 1 entire year since scissors have hit my hair. I have quarantine hair for sure. Welcome. It's good to be back. So my aim with these broadcasts, really, for those of you who've been here, you know this. For those of you who are new to the broadcast, maybe you don't know this, but my aim is really to provide guidance for how you can consciously use the energy of the transits, the new moons, the full moons, to affect your life in a positive way. So basically, we're trying to be proactive with our astrology rather than reactive with our astrology. If we look ahead, we see what's coming, we can kind of make a plan for how we want to navigate it, how we want to put the energy to use if there's something specific it could be useful for, that sort of thing. And so tonight, what I'm going to do is guide you through recognizing when keeping the peace is counterproductive to your life We're going to take a look at identifying when it's okay to say no to compromise. And we're going to look a little bit more closely at transforming your relationship with creativity by letting go of what no longer serves you. So sometimes we can have creative blocks just because we're trying to hold on to old ways of being creative, or old things that we're using for inspiration, or old crutches. And sometimes we just need to throw away the crutches and try a different approach. And so that's kind of what we're going to explore a little bit tonight. We're going to look specifically about the astrology of this full moon in Libra and how we can use it, what we can expect out of it. It's not anything really exciting or great for a new moon in Libra, to be quite frank. Sorry, Librans. Hate to give you the bad news. And hold on, let me see. I've got a YouTube error. Okay. All right. Let me check on Facebook here. Looks okay on Facebook. All right. I have a recording, so if there's issues just like last time, we can upload the recording. So let me make sure that the recording is going. Okay, good. Recording is going good. All right. Notes, stream. Here we go. Diving in. So this new moon in Libra, it's not my favorite. Venus is not really very strongly positioned. She's kind of weakened right now. She's in Virgo, at the very tail end of Virgo at the moment, and about to move into Libra, which is somewhat nicer, but she won't be in Libra in time for the new moon, which really kind of sucks because that won't activate her presence there into anything special. So we kind of missed the boat on that, unfortunately, just due to timing. And so we don't really get her support for this particular new moon opportunity, not in the best way that we might want to be able to have it. She's in fall in Virgo. So Venus is unable to tap into her best qualities while she's moving through this sign, while she's moving through this house in our own chart. And what are those best qualities? Those best qualities are fairness, justice, love, equality, cooperation, harmony, right? Instead, we experience her more as laziness, hedonism, vanity, maybe even you could say a little bit of gluttony or selfishness, self-centeredness, although we normally would associate that with like a Venus in Aries type of expression. I think you could say we're kind of seeing that a little bit now. Venus wants us to compromise for the sake of maintaining harmony, right? So this is one way that you might see this poor placement of her in Virgo, her being in fall in Virgo, actually show up. To give you kind of an example, Venus is a planetary energy that wants us to compromise for the sake of maintaining harmony. But we're not able to do that while she's in Virgo, or at least in Virgo, it becomes clear that sometimes that's not always possible, or sometimes that's not always feasible, or even the best approach. Jupiter is in Sagittarius right now, so that square between Venus and the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction that we're experiencing right now in time for this new moon is Jupiter kind of balking at the idea of being asked to compromise on his ideals, right? Who wants to compromise on your ideals, on your principles? And that's what Jupiter in Sagittarius really is about. It's about our ideals and our principles, right? And none of us really want to compromise on those things, and rightly so. And sometimes it's not a good idea to, even though compromise is generally, kind of a best practice when you're out in the world navigating relationships with people. While sometimes it can be counterproductive. Sometimes compromise is not the best thing, especially when it asks us to compromise on our principles or on our ideals, on our highest values, right? And so in the face of this challenge, what we could be seeing with this new moon is partnerships break down over this resistance to compromising on our ideals, which we shouldn't need to do. We shouldn't have to do. We shouldn't really be asked to do. Now the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction is also showing up for us and not really offering Venus any real kind of support. Only the challenges related to too much of a good thing sometimes, right? Like at a point in time that can be quite transformative with this conjunction to Pluto going on. So this is a hugely transformative moment. It's a major change and adjustment that a lot of folks are facing in a lot of different ways in life, just due to the nature of what's going on in the world and how we all have to react to it and deal with it. But too much of a good thing is not necessarily the right thing right now, right? Like being cooped up at home, too much time at home. We all want to spend time at home and not be at the office, right? Well, maybe we're experiencing right now too much of a good thing. Maybe we can all relate to the experience of being a little hungover after a graduation or a promotion or a bachelor or bachelorette party. It's the consequences of excess after what may be considered a good time or reason for celebration, a major transformative stage of change in one's life. But it doesn't feel very good. It doesn't feel very good the next day at all, right? I think we can all relate to that. Maybe a little too much of a good thing, or the consequences of a little bit too much celebration, that sort of thing. And so that's kind of the energy, the dynamic that we're all experiencing right now in one way or another, in one expression or another. Now, this particular new moon is transformative because we have that Venus square to Pluto that's taken place just in advance of the new moon. Now, another thing that can add to that transformative energy is the Mercury-Uranus opposition that's going to become exact shortly after the new moon. So Uranus is also about change, but he's about sudden change and drastic and dramatic change, not necessarily so much about transformative change, the type of change that Pluto is about. But this transformative new moon has the potential to be destructive because of Venus tangling with Pluto, with Jupiter situated right on top of Pluto. It could possibly affect financial matters, joint money matters, family businesses, real estate, things like that. But in this destruction, the type of destruction that's contained in this new moon's energy is the opportunity for creative rebirth. And so that's the opportunity that you can tap into with this new moon in Libra, is that opportunity for creative rebirth. If you're willing to walk through the hell that Pluto has presented you with, coming through his square with Venus. And so you may already know what that hell is that Pluto is asking you to walk through. And if you're able to do it, if you're willing to do it and you're able to do it, there's potential for creative rebirth, the opportunity for creative rebirth inherent in this new moon. So issues brought up with this new moon could relate to children potentially, or to the breakdown of love with a partner. A couple of ways that this could play out. It's likely that we don't have all the information that we need to be available at this time. And it's also possible that a partner is either not forthcoming or not being forthright with us over some matter or in some way. Now, the relative severity of that, of course, has to do with your own particular astrology, but there's the potential that that's the situation that we're dealing with right now. Financial negotiations are not well supported at this time. It's not a good time for them, so avoid financial negotiations right now if that's at all possible. And just know that there's an intense need for creative freedom with this new moon. And the outcome of that creative freedom could be a little bit unpredictable, but that could be fun in and of its own way. It's about taking a creative risk if you have the opportunity. I'm looking for paper towels at my desk. I haven't been at my desk for a while and I don't see them. I don't think I have any. Oh well. I need a Kleenex and I have no Kleenex at my desk. Go figure. I have an art studio right here and no paper towels, not even one. Can you believe that? How can you believe that? So yes, avoid financial dealings, avoid financial negotiations if you can. If you can't, It is what it is, and that sucks. I'm sorry for you. But focus on this creative rebirth. Yes, there's this point of potential for dramatic change through the destruction of whatever came before. But focus your energy, channel your energy into that creative rebirth potential. It could also be experienced as changes to our values or our priorities, or changes of heart. Okay, so those are a couple of other ways that we could experience this Venus energy. But I would encourage you strongly to wait to take initiatory action until November 17th. So wait a couple of days, give this new moon a little bit of space before you take your first step towards whatever it is you want to initiate at the first light of this new moon. And do that for a couple of reasons. Wait for that Mercury-Uranus opposition to become exact, because that could bring unexpected news. And where we know already that we don't have all the information that we might be wanting right now, or that we might need right now in order to know the right path forward or the right direction forward with whatever it is we're wanting to begin, give that news the opportunity to be delivered before you make your initiation, before you begin the first steps of whatever this is. And the other reason why you might want to wait is because while you're waiting for the Mercury-Uranus opposition to become exact, that's also giving Venus time to make her ingress into Libra. And while that won't allow us to tap into the full potential of Venus in Libra, it does allow us to sidestep a little bit the challenges of Venus in Virgo, Venus in fall, right? So those are important things to know around this particular new moon in Libra. I'm going to check comments real quick and make sure if we have comments or questions on the feed from anyone. On either YouTube or on Facebook. We're broadcasting in the Sidereal Insights Astrology community on Facebook, and you're welcome to join that community so that you can join us live or watch us live on YouTube. I try to always stream these live to YouTube at the same time. Sometimes I have technical difficulties and I can't quite do it to both places at once, but I try to always have a recording that we can upload to YouTube after the fact. So if you want live, Facebook's generally the way that you can get in live for sure. Okay, so back to our notes. So that pretty much wraps it for part one, talking about the astrology of this particular new moon in Libra. So in part two, the next step, what we do is run through each of the houses according to your sidereal rising sign that this new moon is taking place in, and what the themes of those houses are. And then in part three, we move into the good stuff, talking about the Libra archetype and themes, and getting into our prompts for the intention setting. So let me dive in with Aries rising. Of course, this would be a 7th house new moon, marriage and partnership. If you have Aries rising, it could relate to business endeavors. Business partnerships are also ruled by the 7th house, right? The 7th house has to do with our relationships with other people in general, including open enemies and rivals. And specifically when we're talking about the descendant, it has to do with what we reject about ourselves, right? So it's a good opportunity for shadow work when you're doing 7th house new and full moons. For Taurus, this is a 6th house new moon. So that has to do with work, health, pets, daily routines, your schedules and habits, your diet and nutrition. When there's a new moon in the 6th house, this is an ideal time for beginning a new healthy habit, whether that's an exercise routine or adding some new physical activity into your schedule, or adding new healthy foods into your diet. It's not a good time for eliminating foods from your diet. Do that at the full moon. At the new moon, if there's foods that you want to add in to bolster your nutrition in different areas, this would be the right time for doing that. For Gemini, of course, this is a 5th house new moon. So that has to do with creativity. That has to do with children. That has to do with love and romance. Pleasurable activities, things we do for fun, hobbies, sports, gambling, risk-taking. And with this particular new moon having Mercury-Uranus opposition coming up right at the same time, I would say the potential for risk-taking is there. not necessarily paying off in ways that you might expect, but there's a potential for payoff. Just be careful not to take them too early after the new moon, your risks, while Venus is still in Virgo. So with Cancer rising, this is a 4th house new moon. So of course, 4th house has to do with home and family. Cancer's natural themes, right? It's parents, it's real estate, it's home and property, it's your living environment, your living situation, those sorts of things. It also has to do with your parents, and that can be one or both parents. Typically the mother, but not always. Usually the clues are in your own natal chart and those of your parents. But it can indicate both parents or just the family life in general. And then for Leo rising, this will be a 3rd house new moon for you. So travel and communication, which of course travel over short distances, local communication, that sort of thing. This has to do with siblings, neighbors, extended family like aunts, uncles, cousins, your immediate environment, and those people closest to you in terms of your peers, if that makes sense. And then communication is a big theme here. It can also do with education, scheduling, commutes, transportation, that sort of thing when we have a 3rd house in the 3rd house new moon, excuse me. For Virgo, this will be a 2nd house new moon. So usually a good opportunity when you have a new moon in the 2nd house to make an initiatory step towards increasing your income in some way, that whether that's through, asking your boss for a raise, or taking a second job, or starting a side hustle, or doing some other thing to kind of boost your income in some way. Even things like yard sales, or unloading stuff on eBay, or that sort of stuff. Selling off your used possessions can be a good way to boost your income. And at a new moon in your 2nd house, that's always an advised activity, especially if you're setting up long-term earning potential, because you can start to see the payoff for that really kick in at the 6-month mark when we have the full moon in that same house. But the 2nd house, of course, has to do with earned income, expenses, movable assets, possessions, money we earn from the work that we do, money that we earn from our own 2 hands, that sort of thing. For Libra, of course, this will be a 1st house new moon, which is usually a great time for making updates to your appearance, because the 1st house has to do with your appearance, has to do with your identity, your self-expression, your physical body, your style. Has to do with your mannerisms and your behavior and the way that you show up in the world and interact with the environment around you. And so when we have a new moon in the 1st house, it's your birthday new moon, right? It's a wild card new moon. So it can be a good opportunity to kind of reinvent your look or update your style if you want to do that. Now, we don't have Venus well placed for you, though. She's in fall in Virgo, right? Which for Libra, we know this is your 12th house. So you may want to hold off until Venus moves into Libra on the 17th before you make any of those changes this time around if you have Libra rising. Just because you want to make sure that Venus isn't working against you, since she happens to rule beauty and adornment and things like that. Okay. So for Scorpio, this is a 12th house new moon for you. So the 12th house has to do with privacy and seclusion, right? Secrets and spirituality, our unconscious mind, our escapist tendencies and addictions. It can also speak to work that we do behind closed doors, outside of public eyes. So this can be a good time to start a new solo project or work on something that no one will really have access to or see until you have it completed. So if you have Scorpio rising, think if there's something like that you'd like to get started on, a solo project of some sort, or if there's some sort of new spiritual exploration or spiritual practice that you'd like to start, you can do that now as well. For Sagittarius, this is an 11th house new moon. So 11th house, of course, has to do with friends, hopes and dreams, organizations, your social life. Especially like new moons in the 11th house for taking steps towards initiating a long-held hope or dream, doing something that's near and dear to your heart. It's a good time to get started on something like that. For Capricorn, this will be a 10th house full moon for you. New moon. So, of course, related to career and achievement, things that Capricorn naturally rules, related to awards and recognition, your professional life, status and reputation, things like that. So you can see changes to status come up with a new moon. It could be an opportunity to start a new professional project that helps elevate your what's the word we're looking for here? Elevate your image in your field. Give you more visibility in that way, or help you achieve some sort of career recognition with your employer in that way. So think about what types of initiations you can be making near this time if you have Capricorn rising to give your career a boost. Aquarius, this will be a 9th house new moon for you. So of course, international affairs, things like long distance travel, international travel, long distance communication, foreign communication, publishing, broadcasting, but also has to do with legal matters, higher education matters, that sort of stuff, immigration, and also philosophy, law, that sort of stuff. For Pisces, this will be an 8th house, a new moon for you. So 8th house relates to other people's money, resources that come to us through the partner or through other people, things like banks, loans, investment earnings, insurance claims, also inheritances or estates, wills, bonus and commission income, money that comes through the goodwill of other people, but also can relate to debts, money that we owe other people, taxes that we owe, insurance premiums that we owe. And then some non-financial themes related to the 8th house have to do with things like the occult, death, rebirth, transformation, psychology, healing, investigation and analysis, anything requiring deep digging. That's related to the 8th house as well. Right? And so that covers it for all of the rising signs. I'm just going to check the feed real quick in both places, YouTube and Facebook, and see if we have any questions or comments while we've been live. And it doesn't look like we have so far. That's a good thing, but you are very welcome to include your questions or comments. We've talked a little bit so far about the astrology of this new moon in Libra and how kind of yucky it is generally. And what we can do with it. And then now, since we've wrapped up our conversation about the themes that each rising sign is going to be facing with this new moon, we'll dive into our discussion about the Libra archetype and Libra themes. And then we'll get specifically into some prompts to help you with having some inspiration around what you want to set your intentions for this new moon. So Libra, this is the sign of the scales, right? This is cardinal air. So this is a very driven type of principle. It's initiatory. It wants to make things happen, right? It wants to go in that sense, but it wants to go we together. It's the sign of the scales. It's about two bodies in motion in relation to each other, right? The one scale goes up when the other scale has more weight in it, right? So it's about not just balance, but the dance and how we find balance. It's the archetype of the partner, the counselor, the peacemaker or diplomat, the mediator, you could say, the negotiator, the person in the middle, helping to bring two parties together in dialogue. But it can also be the archetype of the seductress or flirt. Libra represents the principles of balance and equilibrium, which naturally result in harmony. Okay? And Libra recognizes that all that exists on a continuum, and that you can't pick up one end of the stick without picking up the other, right? So this is about how everything in existence is polarity. It's duality. The only example I have is my my Jack Skellington Night Before Christmas hair stick that I've had my hair up with today. But you can't pick up one end of the stick without also picking up the other, right? So everything is about duality and polarity on a spectrum. It's about yin and yang, and how each end of the spectrum, each pole, helps inform and give meaning to its opposite. If you take away evil, good loses its context, good loses its meaning, right? If you take away light, there's no way to cast a shadow. You can't discern shadow from darkness, right? So Libra is about this concept of the ends of the pole, of the opposite ends of the spectrum, giving meaning to each other. But it's also about commitment. It's about commitment, especially to a partner, especially to other. The not us, right? There's us and then there's not us. Everything else that's not us. It's about commitment to us. And so keep those things in mind as you set your intentions for this new moon. I have some prompts that I want you to consider. These are new and updated and fresh. So not related to prompts that we've done in the past for the new moon in Libra. And it's because I want you to be thinking about this a little bit differently. It's kind of some interesting astrology that we're facing with this new moon. I think it requires a little bit of nuanced navigation to move through it with any sort of skill, as opposed to just stumbling or bumbling our way through it. So I think it's one to be kind of gentle and careful with. And it can bring up, this is an air sign new moon, but one thing I want to call out before we move into the prompts, I didn't really talk about this when I was writing up my notes for the chart, but this can be an emotional new moon. I wouldn't normally say that about a new moon in an air sign. However, with this new moon, one thing that we do have is, in the chart of the new moon itself, the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction taking place in 5th house Sagittarius. And it's that Jupiter-Pluto conjunction being such a big and significant and impactful astrological event, one that doesn't necessarily happen super frequently, happening in a sign that directly relates to the heart. That's where I think that we can really feel the emotion come up with this new moon. And especially, I think we could have an opportunity for healing emotional wounds, healing wounds of the heart, or at least coming to terms with matters of the heart that haven't panned out the way that we might have hoped or the way that we might have wanted. I don't know. Some of you who've been following the broadcast know that I have been really wrangling a lot with themes of grief and processing grief and moving through grief a lot in the last 18 months, especially since my divorce, but then also even since January of this year. And I've noticed that coming up and being a theme lately around this particular new moon. I think for me, maybe it's a double whammy in that effect because I have Gemini rising. So it also happens in Libra in my 5th house, right? Which has to do with the heart, has to do with love. But where I'm kind of steering this conversation is that where I've been drawn a lot in the last couple of days while this energy has been so intense, I've been drawn a lot to guided meditations for clearing emotional wounds, emotional hurts, that sort of thing on YouTube. And I found this very beneficial practice, a very helpful practice. And I just want to kind of throw that out there as an idea. If you find yourself in the same situation, in the same place where this does turn out to be an emotional or emotionally volatile new moon for you, tap into other resources, tap into ways that you can actively engage in self-care. Venus is ruling this new moon. Venus is definitely about self-care. Usually in her expression as the ruler of Taurus, maybe more so than Libra, but take advantage of that energy and help yourself move through what could be otherwise maybe a little bit difficult, emotionally difficult new moon. Hit YouTube and just Google search guided meditation for, and whatever it is that you're needing help with or wrestling with. If there's some emotional thing that you want to work through and have some assistance in doing that, tap into those resources that are available to you, as they can be hugely valuable. I know I have found the ones I've been using hugely valuable today. But that is what I would encourage you to do. I want to dive into our prompts now. And of course, I have to read to you the saying in our moon gazing journal, right? The one that I always write my new moon intentions in. Oh, this is fun. Say good riddance to weeds. Cut them when the moon is in the signs of Leo, Gemini, and Virgo. Who knew? Leo, Gemini, and Virgo are the best time to do your weeding. Now you know. You might not have known before, right? All right, so as you set your intentions for this new moon in Libra, consider, what is it that you need to feel true peace and contentment in this area of your life where you find Libra in your sidereal natal chart? Where is it? Why is it? How is it that you are trying not to rock the boat and have instead been putting up with circumstances or situations that no longer serve your highest good? How can you create more balance and genuine harmony in this part of your life? How can you move forward with your intention in a way which allows you to not compromise on your ideals, on your beliefs? Or how can you take a new approach that allows you to create a life in alignment with your true values and not those of an external authority or the expectations of society, societal values? Venus wants you to get right with your values, right? This is your self-worth, your self-esteem. And a lot of that comes from, are you living in alignment with your values, right? How can you be a better advocate for what you want out of this part of your life? How can you negotiate for what you want or need? And in what ways can you practice self-love and make appreciating yourself a habit? That's a good question. And then finally, how can you step into true partnership with your inner being and into cooperation with the universe to move towards your highest goals? And we don't even need to be talking about life goals, but maybe lifetime goals. How can you actually step into true partnership with your inner being and into cooperation with the universe to move towards your North Node life goal with this new moon? So, your highest goals, all right? Not your hopes and dreams, your highest goals. So write down at least one of those main intentions for this new moon. You can do more if you prefer. I try to not bite off too much because I find that the more you bite off, the longer it takes to manifest what it is you want to manifest when you're setting your intentions. I'm going to do a quick recap on these prompts, but for the rest of us, take a moment to write out what those intentions are. I do encourage you to draw it out or do a little visualization practice, but even drawing it out in like fun little stick figure stuff can help you manifest what it is you're wanting to create a little bit faster. And so can writing an affirmation. Affirmations can help you reinforce your intention, and they're fun to use, especially in the days immediately following the new moon, to help reinforce what it is you want to manifest. And so here we are. I'm going to just recap these prompts, and then everyone can dive in and do their own writing. What is it you need to feel true peace and contentment in this part of your life? Where are you trying to not rock the boat and are instead putting up with circumstances or situations that no longer serve your highest good in your effort to keep the peace? How can you create more balance and actual genuine harmony in this part of your life? How can you move forward with your intention in a way which allows you to not compromise on your ideals? Basically, to be in alignment, in harmony with your true values and priorities, and not the values and priorities of an external authority or the expectations of society. So be in harmony with yourself, with your inner being, with your inner guidance, and not with the external. How can you be a better advocate for what you want out of this part of your life? How can you negotiate for what you want or need? And in what ways can you practice self-love and make appreciating yourself a habit? And then finally, how can you step into true partnership with your inner being and into cooperation with the universe in order to move towards your highest goals? Ooh, these are going to be tough ones. 5th house. All right, everyone. Enjoy. Okay. I think that's it. At least for me. If anyone is still writing and needs more time, let me know. In the meantime, I'm going to check the streams, check the feeds, check the comments, see how things are doing. Looks good. All right. Okay, so let me share with you what I wrote. And I'm going to be spending a little bit of extra time with this. I'll have to think about what that looks like, because I'm not sure what my initiatory step is, and I wouldn't want to take that until after the 17th, like we talked about in the first part of the broadcast, right? But I do want to do some metaphysical things, some spiritual practices, some energetic practices in support of my intention and my manifestation. And I'm trying to decide, maybe I can do some of that in advance of the 17th. We'll see. I have some ideas for how I want to do all of that. And here's what I wrote for my intention setting. This is a 5th house new moon for me. So it kind of sucks that Venus is not well supported. And the 5th house is directly relevant to a lot of things that are very important to me at this point in my life. And so there's a couple of ways that I would like to influence how I experience 5th house. And all of them are things that I would like to work with at this new moon. So what I'll be doing is getting creative with how I do that. So what I wrote is, I intend to step into true partnership with my inner being and into cooperation with the universe as I seek to give myself the opportunity for genuine love, creative self-expression, and experiencing motherhood. That it's my intention to surrender into this cooperation through mantra, through meditation, through emotional release practices, through journaling, through visualizing what my heart truly desires. That's big. And that it's my intention to do one of each of these practices every day to build momentum towards each individual thing, manifesting genuine, loving connection, creative self-expression, and the experience of motherhood. So I will be thinking about how do I want to use those different tools in combination with supporting what I want to manifest and that ideal outcome and what that ideal outcome looks like. I have, general sense of what that ideal outcome is like in all of those regards. But this is an opportunity to get specific and to take action towards it. And I think each of those can add in a different way, either ways to get specific. For instance, journaling or visualizing or drawing out what it is I really want to manifest, or to just support energetically, mantra, meditation, that sort of thing. So I think there's different ways that I can use these. I think what I'll do is today, tomorrow, and the 17th, I'll use the journaling and visualizing practices and the emotional release practices. And then from the 17th on, I'll move into the mantra and meditation and visualizing in support of. So start with framing and then move into the supportive practices. That's what I think I'll do. And then, I'll find true love and live happily ever after, won't I? Isn't that how it works? Who else has that as your intention this month? Join me. We'll conquer the world. All right. And if anyone else wants to share what it is that they are setting intentions around for the new moon in Libra, that it's not really like a great new moon. I'm not really thrilled about it. We can work with it. It's kind of but it's an opportunity. Don't waste it. So, like I said, write an affirmation to help reinforce your intention. Share your affirmation in the comments, please. I encourage you, like I said, take some time to draw it out. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, definitely do that. And that way you'll get notified whenever I upload a broadcast or go live. If you are not a member of the Sidereal Insights Astrology community on Facebook, please join. And stay tuned for more information on the 2021 Ultimate Astrological Planner, which is coming. It is way behind schedule, and I do apologize for that. And also join me on Monday. Join me. Monday, we're having Sidereal Insights Astro Update broadcast for the first time in weeks. I've got the material ready. We're going to talk about what's going on right now. We're going to talk about what's coming up in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to set the stage for the final run of the year into what could turn out to be quite a memorable December with the transits that we have coming up for us in December. So thank you all for joining me. I appreciate having you here on the broadcast, and we will see you again next time. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.